Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar. It's so good to see everyone here live on YouTube. And I think we're all ready to start. It's wonderful to be here with everyone. So I will just start by, first of all, welcoming you all, wherever you're from. Whoever has a chat available on their YouTube channel, I would love to hear your location. So please type in chat where you're located, where you're calling in from today. Just giving it another moment just for everyone to enter from the waiting room. Love to learn more about your individual locations. Wonderful. Hello, hello. So good to see you. What an amazing opportunity. It always feels wonderful to connect worldwide and to hear where everyone's calling in from. We will just start in a moment. Just allowing just a couple more people to drop in. Hey, California, Florida, Canada, Louisiana, Virginia, Chicago, Las Vegas, Upper Michigan. Hello. Hello, hello. So good to see everyone. I think we can dare to begin. And I would like to start by personally introducing you to Dr. Dawson Church on today's webinar. My name is Miriam Paninsky. I'll say a few more words about myself later, but I'd really like to start with Dawson. Now, I've been introducing Dawson for several years now, but you're going to hear things about him today you may have never heard before. So usually I love to share about Dawson's scientific, his healing, his humanitarian work. He's been involved in over 100 scientific studies, testified before US congressional committees, gotten EFT tapping approved for continuing medical education with the American Medical Association and American Psychological Association, facilitated free treatment for over 20,000 veterans with PTSD, and has written 3 best-selling science books. And while most of us know that he does meditate daily, hardly anyone knows about his background in spiritual studies. So Dawson has had a series of difficult childhood experiences that did leave him depressed and disillusioned as a teenager. And he did seek for the big answers. He's seeking answers to life's big questions. He joined a spiritual community, and when he was 15 years old, so just at 15 years old, he already joined a spiritual community, and he spent many years studying the perennial philosophy that underlies all religion. He followed the work of many great spiritual teachers, including Ram Dass, Alan Watts, Aldous Huxley, Evan Underhill, Paul Brunton. We'll hear more about him. Jean Houston, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and Ernest Holmes. And when he was 50, he earned a doctoral degree in theology at Holos University and was ordained as a minister at Unity Village, Missouri. When first trying to meditate, and I think many of us can relate to that, Dawson found meditation difficult, as most of us do. So in 2009, he combined several proven techniques from science to develop a very simple 7-step method called Ecomeditation. Or Ecomeditation. It's easy, it's simple, it's quick, and researchers have now shown that even in the first-time meditators, it produces advanced states of consciousness Welcome, Dawson. He's obviously you're Dawson. You're a trailblazer in the field of energy psychology and having these tools recognized and accessible. He's also my personal friend, has been my teacher, a mentor for me for many years now. And I can wholeheartedly say that Dawson is an incredibly human being with a deep care for humanity and the vibration of this planet. And I'm honored to be here with you as always, Dawson.
Miriam, thank you so much. And you're one of those bright, shining lights, and it's such a joy to work with you. And the whole team at EFT Universe is just a magnificent collection of human beings. Our whole community is remarkable, and it's just a pleasure to be part of this great global healing movement that's happening now. And I believe is going to make an enormous difference to our society and our world in the years to come. And we're at one of those real junctions in human history right now when many things are shifting and changing. Think back 1,000 years to the Renaissance, and in only a few years, there was this huge jump, and all of human society changed. Spirituality, religion changed, law changed, education changed. There was a massive shift in the recognition of human rights and women's rights and many facets of society, like education, were totally different after the Renaissance. And it happened in a very short while. So we're in the middle of one of those other jumps now in history, after which everything is different. And it's exciting to be part of this huge community of people that is making it all possible. So, in the next hour, I'm going to share with you both ancient, historical, inspirational trends and also some of the latest science that is showing us that radical human transformation is possible, not just little human transformation. Like I learned incremental human transformation myself many years ago, but what's just so exciting is that science is now giving us a handle on rapid and radical transformation of a kind we just haven't seen in human history before. So I'll be sharing that with you over the course of the next hour. Also, please do stay with me for the whole of the next hour because at the end of the hour, I'm to give you a special gift. It's a hour-long video presentation I made with some really distinguished people. And in the audience in front of me when I was making that video it was a live audience with people like Marianne Williamson and Jack Canfield and Lisa Nichols and John Gray. They were right there in the front row. So the presentation's called Your DNA is Not Your Destiny. And it shows how even if we've had all kinds of experiences that have affected us, that we can move past those experiences, we can transform them and move into that wonderful state of liberation and transcendence. So you'll get that free video once that link for free, once you are here for the full hour we have together today. What I'm going to cover in the course of the next hour are some things that can utterly transform your life. That's not just hyperbole. It's a statement of scientific fact. We know this from a whole group of studies, which I outline in my books and in our online courses. I'll share with you the essence of the mystical experience. What is the mystical experience? What is this pinnacle of human consciousness that Rumi knew, and Hildegard of Bingen knew, and Jesus knew, and Moses knew, and Mary knew, all of these great figures from human history? What is the essence of the mystical experience? How does mysticism relate to religion and spirituality? Because they're different. Religion is not mysticism, is not spirituality. The tool science is applying now to the study of mysticism and how we're studying people who are in the process of this evolutionary pathway to awakening and the long path that I took along with millions of people over the history to get there. The long path, what the long path is, and how there's also a shortcut. The long path is long, but the shortcut is available to us, and science is showing us the way. Also, the importance of integrating mystical experiences with your everyday life. Everyone has them, but do you really integrate them with your daily life? Also, our new course is called The Short path to oneness. I'll share the structure of the course with you. Miriam will talk about mentoring. You get a personal mentor in the course. We mentor you all the way through the course and the structure of that course and how we're measuring its ability to facilitate that awakening experience, not in 10,000 hours or 10 years or going to a monastery and spending a decade of your life there, but in 9 months. People are going through this course and having those breakthroughs in 9 months. So, who are these mystics? Who are the mystics and what's different about them? Mystics are living the experience beyond the body, mind, and emotions. They know who they are when they say, I am Rumi, I am Mother Mary, I am Kuan Yin. They're not talking about the body inhabited by that consciousness. They're talking about the consciousness itself. They know who they are. They're wearing a skin suit, body suit, but they know they aren't that. They know who they are beyond the body. And that consciousness of knowing who you are beyond the body characterizes that mystical experience. Just like I was playing chess with my youngest son recently, and I was moving this particular knight around the chessboard. So here I was dropping into it, inhabiting that piece for a minute and moving it in certain ways. But after I got done moving the knight, I know I'm not the knight. In the movie Avatar, amazing movie, you see these human beings dropping into the bodies of the Na'vi, this species that lives on a beautiful eco planet, and they drop into the body of the Na'vi in that movie Avatar, and they are operating the bodies of these beautiful beings, but they are not the beings. They're dropping into that, and the mystics know that. The mystics know they're dropping into this body for 50, 70, 80, 100 years. They know that's not really them. So think back, about the games you played. You probably played Monopoly or chess or Dungeons and Dragons. You knew you weren't Sir Galahad. You had a little image, you had a little game piece that represented your character. You had an avatar, but you were not that. And the mystics know this all the time. Because when you forget that you are consciousness in a body, you suffer. And you mistake the suffering of the body for your own suffering. So the human condition is one of suffering. That's the first of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. Suffering is inherent in this state of forgetting that we are beings far beyond our physical bodies. And the mystics have succeeded in detaching themselves, pulling their awareness out of that illusion and living this life of freedom. They look down at the avatar. They look down at the body. They know they are not the body. So that's the huge difference between living as a mystic, living as somebody who's awake, and somebody who's enmeshed in this world of suffering. Suffering, by the way, in the Buddhist and Hindu traditions is defined as both getting what you want and not getting what you want. Desiring stuff, wanting the good stuff, wanting to avoid the bad stuff. That is the definition of suffering. But human beings have been having these experiences of something more for hundreds of thousands of years. I imagine some Stone Age woman sitting on a log like 500,000 years ago, and her family is fed, the fire is burning, predators aren't around right now. And she sits on a log and looks at the stars, and she suddenly is transported by the wonder of the universe into a space beyond herself. She has that transcendent experience. And so people have been having these experiences for the whole of human history. And then when the great mystics, when Moses comes down from Mount Sinai with those tablets and has the stone tablets in his hand, they try and convey that message, that insight to the suffering human beings around them. And so that message then is encapsulated in the time and place it enters. And so if it comes in through Moses or Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna or Arjuna or Buddha, it looks very different. But all of those religions begin with that mystical experience, with that understanding that I am not my body. I am consciousness. These people traveled into consciousness, came down, back, and shared their insights with others. Those insights got enmeshed in the historical, cultural milieu of the time and became the religions. But the origin of all of them is that mystical experience. So remember, the mystical experience is the same throughout the religions and comes from the same source. And that mystical experience is available to everybody. Everybody has that moment of looking at the stars like that first woman 500,000 years ago. You've looked out over the beautiful rolling hills of a lovely place and you've been inspired. Maybe you're at a concert and just the music took you to an elevated place. Maybe you were at a museum and looked at a painting, and suddenly you were enraptured by art. Maybe you held a friend, and that close emotional embrace brought you to that elevated place. Maybe you've been present at the birth of a baby. You've held a newborn baby in your arms, and suddenly you know that there's something far beyond our conventional human experience. Or maybe at the other end of life, maybe you have had a tragedy and you've realized this through difficulty and loss and disaster. Maybe you've held the hand of a friend or a loved one who's dying. And as you'll know, the veil is thin when you're with those dying people. They are able to help you connect to that transcendent state. So think back now to a moment when you've realized, I'm not my body. I'm not the avatar. This is who I really am. What was it for you? Was it watching a glorious sunset? Was it making love? Was it a really emotionally involved moment of connection with a friend? Was it the beauty of nature? What was it for you? So just type into the comment box there. I'd love to hear from you and know what your moment was. Everyone's had a moment. Even if you've had a difficult life, there have been moments when you were lifted above the ordinary to experience that mystical sense of union with the all that is. I'm just checking what people are saying over here. Barbara, when you understand infinity, you become immortal. Leslie saying stargazing. Stars will do it for you, Leslie. Glenn. Oh, bless you, Glenn. Glenn is one of our certified practitioners and also a veteran. And he's saying, traveling the back roads of Wisconsin, seeing a sea of green. The spring is the time when everyone is reminded of that. The golden light, the golden light. The golden light is what photographers call that twilight period when everything's bathed in gold. Camille, the awareness there is no real separation. Time and nature. Wow. Marlene, I'm just so touched by what you said there. Seeing your mother just after she died and realizing she's not in there. She's not in there. It's just the avatar. Lithesh, after meditation in the morning. Meditation gets you there reliably every day. Laura, standing with my horses, exploring the moon and the stars. Janelle, an out-of-body experience. Laughing with my best friend, Jillian. Oh, Jillian, wonderful to connect with you. And the sense that we have known each other forever and ever. And Jillian, I know from my time with you at the meditation retreat, you laugh a lot. You smile a lot. I love that. Kurgram, vision of light. Everything was solid, yet not solid. A sense of peace. The lightness of now. Laura, a field of sunflowers. Watching my granddaughters. Listening to Sadhguru, listening to Babaji, listening to Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah, those are all powerful experiences. So we've all had those glimpses of the infinite. We've all had those glimpses of something far beyond ourselves. And we all are able to move to those elevated states and know, even just for a few moments, that we aren't this thing, this body, mind, and heart. We are far more. And what we then are motivated to do is repeat the experience. If I had this experience in nature, have the experience again. How do I get back to that space and have these mystical experiences again? Now, here is where science gives us a huge advantage because when we study the brains of people having these peak experiences, we then can begin to develop methods of guiding them back to those brain states and those experiences again and again and again. And that's the big shift that's happening right now. Not only are people having these experiences, we're studying their brains. We know what happens in the brains of people having these experiences. So I'm going to ask Miriam now to share with us what these experiences take us to, this state of mystical unity, and what the difference is between the long path and the short path. Back over to you, Miriam.
Thank you, Dawson, for a wonderful introduction. And Dawson has just asked me to share a few words about myself. So I am the Consciousness Programs Director here at EFT Universe, as well as trainer and mentor. I'm also just finishing up the last bits of my PhD research at Brown University. I've done many years of research and practice around trauma, specifically perinatal trauma. And I've come to know Dawson years ago and have admired and followed the work that he has done for tapping, for EFT, for somatic trauma work, and also around the power of meditation, as I have found this combination an absolute game changer in my own healing and enlightenment journey, and those of many others I've had the honor to witness. I've been an EFT and a healing practitioner for many years now. I've been blessed to accompany, guide, and witness people transition from tremendous emotional pain, PTSD, severe trauma, to liberation. I was also raised in ashrams of a spiritual community around the world and basically learned to meditate as soon as I could sit up straight. I went to school in the Himalayas for a while and so on. And while I've had many mystical experience, many mystical highlights, exuberant joy, high collective awareness, intense depths, vision, this experience didn't match the trauma and the systematic abuse I also suffered, both in the community and in my home. And also, as many of us may have experienced firsthand, a spiritual community with fundamentalist rules comes with institutionalized religion and more fundamentalism and human power struggles and more abuse. And I was left devastated, I was left confused, and I felt the truth of my experiences, but how could God let all of this happen, and how do I access this again? So I went on my own journey for many years, and after a beautiful and intense healing journey and spiritual finding that also involved Dawson, I have come to see the reason why I was led on this path of painful detachment and release, the dependency of any concepts of hierarchy. And when Dawson first approached me with this program, I was naturally skeptical. But after he had taken me through this, and I realized this is someone and this is a program that walks its talk, that is not looking to be another guru, but supports you on your own personal journey of enlightenment, connecting you with your spirit as your own guru, your own master, your own inner guidance system. So that being said, religions over these last thousands of years gave us their best ideas about how to approach the mystical experience of unity with all that is. And people who wanted to reach this pinnacle of human experience followed their instructions of these religious leaders. They took vows. We spent 10,000 of hours or more in spiritual practice, restricting their diet. People lived in monasteries and still do, or convents, read the scriptures and studied with masters. So that's what we call the long path to enlightenment, is 10,000 of hours on the top of a mountain in the Himalayas without moving. But there's always been the secret teaching of a short path. And some people, even without any practice, just awaken spontaneously. Eckhart Tolle is an example. Years and years of depressions, and all of a sudden was in the depths of his despair, in the depths of his pain, sitting on a park bench and had a spontaneous awakening moment and never turned back. Byron Katie was in a rehab facility, sleeping in the attic when a cockroach crawled over her foot when she had a spontaneous awakening. Brother Lawrence is another example, a 17th century Carmelite monk whose enlightenment is described in a book called The Practice of the Presence of God. He just awakened while staring at a fruit tree and marveling at the ways of nature. Ramana Maharshi is another example, whose student, Paul Brunton, transcribed the exercises in our Short Path to Oneness course, awakened at the age of 16. He just felt sick one day. He lay down and stopped breathing and decided to die. He just decided, I'm going to die. And when he got up, he says his personality stayed dead, and he awakened to enlightenment. So these are all many experiences of the short path to oneness that we have learned over the last years, that there is a potential for that too, that we may not need to sit 10,000 of hours on the top of a mountain in a cave to reach these stages of enlightenment. And I would love to hear in the chat if any of you have heard or read about a person who had a spontaneous awakening like that. Who was that for you? And it may have been a person in your personal life as well, where you saw that quality. I would love to hear from some of you in the chat if you have ever encountered a person like that in your personal life or in a book or any other experience. Who may that have been for you? I'm curious to see. My chat here may be a little bit delayed.
Yeah, just as we're waiting for people to drop in their responses there, Miriam, I've always been envious of people like Eckhart Tolle. It's like sitting on a park
Right.
bench for years depressed. Bingo! For me, it was going to live in a spiritual community at 15 years old, and it was the very, very, very long path. Just years and years and years of classes and meditation and reading and listening to teachers and I mean, and some of the Eastern scriptures talk about like hundreds of lifetimes. So talk about a long path. Getting done in one lifetime was regarded as exceptional. Huh. That's an interesting one. My now crossed over fiance. So if you knew somebody like this who had that awakening experience personally, that's rare and really precious. Serge Kahili King, that's a good one. The great Kahuna teacher. Mike Singer. Yeah. It
Michael Singer, yeah.
yeah, talks about that. Yeah. So So there are these people who have these remarkable experiences, and they're rare, but they do happen sometimes, and they are an inspiration to us all. And you want to accelerate the process and not be sticking around in those suffering states for a long, long time. So, what science is giving us now is a sense of what's going on in the brains of people who are awakening. Obviously, we can't go stick Rumi or St. Catherine of Siena in an MRI, but we can put Franciscan nuns who've been in a convent their whole lives in an MRI. We can put Tibetan monks, modern Tibetan monks in MRIs. And so there is about a 30-year project that's been going on right now to study the brains of people who can put themselves at will into these awakened experiences. And what's emerged is a pattern, commonality. It does not matter whether they're Qigong masters or Franciscan Christians or Tibetan Buddhists. It is the same pattern we see in the brain, regardless. And it even is the case for atheists. People who don't believe in any kind of God, have no religion. They aren't exempt if they're having a um, transcendent experience, and about they do it about the same rate. Research shows that atheists, people who have no belief in God whatsoever, have about the same rate of these experiences as others. Their brain function looks the same. Everyone having a mystical experience, their brain function looks the same in an MRI. And the big breakthrough this is allowed is we can now train people, anybody, to be in those same brain states by activating those parts of the brain. And there are two parts of the brain that are noteworthy to this common pattern. There's one part of the brain that gets shut down by people in these ecstatic mystical states, and that is the part that suffers. It's also the part that builds, constructs our sense of self. So I have a sense of me. I am me. I have a sense of this body, mind, and heart. It's like I know my name is Dawson Church. I decided to put on a purple shirt today when I was going to do this webinar. I had work to do earlier today. I was in some meetings with people, including Miriam and Seth. And so that is all me. I, me, mine. That story. But that story is often a suffering story. That selfhood is often enmeshed with suffering because bad stuff happened in my life in the past. So that self-constructing part of the brain, the default mode network, is really focused on the harms and wrongs people did to me back along my life journey and how those might play out in the future. Well, somebody hurt me this way in the past. Maybe they'll hurt me this way in the future. Maybe a new person will hurt me in this way in this future. So I must be really on alert. So we become vigilant. And that self part of the brain, that default mode network, ruminates about the bad things of the past and the future things that might be bad coming in our life journey ahead of us. That's what the default mode network does. And its center is right here behind the forehead in a part of the brain called the mid prefrontal cortex, MPFC, mid prefrontal cortex. Right over here, there's this chunk of tissue that is constructing yourself and is highly focused on the past and on the future. It's asking, what do people think of me? When is my next meal? How can I improve my life? What people like me, what people don't, what is happening on my social media feed? All of the stuff is the obsession of the mid-prefrontal cortex. And notice future, past, no present moment. And you can only experience joy in the now, in the present moment, in the here and now. You have to be showing up and be present in your life to experience joy and gratitude and awe and all these other wonderful positive emotions. So when we experience those positive emotions, it shuts down that default mode network. And with that, suffering ceases. And on the long path, eventually that happens. But that training takes a very, very, very long time. For me, it took decades. For many of these monks and nuns, it took decades. The Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures talk about taking lifetimes to walk the long path and eventually achieve those awakening states where you aren't sucked into the default mode network. So think about what habits, what beliefs most keep you stuck. Like when you're in reflection mode, obsession mode about the past and the future, what do you reflect on? What is it keeping you stuck in that mid-prefrontal cortex, that default mode network, that worry about the self? What is it anchoring you there? What habit, belief, behavior anchors you there? And just drop that into the comment field. I'd love to know what personal issues are bothering you. That if you could escape those things, your whole life would be way, way, way happier. Just go ahead and drop those into the comments. This is all the default mode network. It's that hamster wheel of behaviors, and it's called the default mode network because that's the brain region that the brain defaults to using when we aren't busy doing something else. So just quickly drop into the comment field what some of the old habits, behaviors are that keep you stuck. I know for me, it's impatience. For me, it's worry about, especially if people have harmed or wronged me or done something that I don't think is right. I'll ruminate on that over and over and over again. So for all of us, it's different, but it's common in that it's the same brain region. The default mode network is highly active. So what is it that activates your default mode network? Okay, so feeling stuck, financial issues. I keep on reflecting on my money problems. That's what keeps me on that hamster wheel. Guilt, feeling guilty, knowing I was an unwanted child. So again, it's really helpful for survival to keep on remembering you're an unwanted child and make sure that that doesn't affect your life negatively in the future. But if that is the rumination that's occupying your default mode network, it's keeping you out of the present moment right now. Wanting more loving and true connection. Absolutely. I so empathize with that want. We want connection. And you can't be connected with people around you unless you're in the present moment. If you're stuck in the past, if you're projecting into the future, you aren't present. You must be present to win, as the old saying goes. And for real, authentic connection, you have to show up in the present. Feeling not worthy, the fear that affected me in the past. And again, for our ancestors, it made perfect sense to have that fear, remembered fear from the past, and projected fear into the future. But it keeps us out of the present. It becomes the core of self, and it doesn't serve us, doesn't serve our well-being. It keeps us in our body, mind, spirit, keeps us stuck in our little local chess piece, doesn't allow us to move into those infinite states of bliss that these monks and nuns know. Yep, major complex PTSD. Complex PTSD is really hard to overcome. It's where you had repeated insults, sometimes hundreds of times, and that you had a situation where being hypervigilant and being alert to threats kept you alive, kept you functioning. So it became the way your brain functioned, your brain defaults to that. Very, very difficult to overcome that trauma. I so want you to be able to live and not to survive each day. You deserve to live, live fully, not to survive. Worried about the safety of your loved ones, the pain of my grown kids not wanting us in their lives. Absolutely. This is something to which your brain would return day after day after day. I lost my wife to an undiagnosed disease a decade ago. Wow. And then 5 years later, losing your brother to homicide. Both were younger than me. I'm so sorry to hear that. And again, these become part of our core identity and they become part of the way our brains function. So our minds return to those tragedies over and over and over again. We can't get loose from them. And even if we try and think positive thoughts, we get sucked back into that default function in our brains. Guilt, inadequacy, lack of self-confidence, belief that I can't make a living doing something I truly love. Yeah. Yeah, so these are all fixed beliefs that become entrenched in the default mode network. So here's where the short path to oneness comes in. We need to shift functioning from the default mode network to a different part of the brain. And I've done MRI research and EEG research that shows that certain specific practices do just that. We did one EEG study and it showed that after only a month doing short path type practices, the default mode network just diminished in activity drastically. On MRI scans, if a brain activity level increases in a part of the brain, it shows up as red. If it decreases, it shows up as blue. It's kind of like if you're in the kitchen cooking and you turn on the heat is all red. And if you put something in the freezer, it goes blue. What we saw after only 30 days doing these practices was the default mode network. It was on ice. It was just shut down. It was totally blue. It was amazing to see this happening after 30 days. And you know what part of the brain was highly lit up? All red? The compassion network. The insula, this big lobe of the brain that handles compassion, gratitude, joy, awe, thanksgiving, well-being, altruism. That part of the brain was like it turned on the heat, full blast, red, 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 red. It was glowing red. That all of those social, pro-social emotions and positive emotions, that part of the brain was highly active, red, and the default mode network, blue, in the deep freeze. That's the way you want to be. And that's the beauty of it. You know, it used to take us 10,000 hours to get there. Now, using MRIs and EEGs and with these scientific methods, we can get there really, really quickly. We dial down the suffering self, we dial up all of these positive emotions. You're going to feel different in just a few weeks. And I'm going to play you a 2-minute clip of the statements of people who've been on the short path to oneness, telling you what happened for them. We've had lots of people go through the short path to oneness already, and they have amazing stories about their brain activity and their lives changing really, really, really quickly. In fact, we have so many people wanting to share with us now on video. We had to select just a couple of minutes clip of people sharing these stories they've experienced because there are so many people who've been wanting to share their stories with you. So you'll feel different in just a few weeks. Because we're using neuroscience-based methods, we do things that are effective, and we abandon all the things I did when I was in that ashram as a teenager that really aren't effective. MRI studies show that certain things are not effective. We just don't do them because we have the benefit of science showing you what really works. And that's the first part of the short path course. The short path course takes 9 months to complete. Some people finish it in a few months less, some people take a year, but it's basically designed to be a 9 month course. And the very, very first month is designed to shut down that default mode network and light up the insula, that compassion, gratitude, joy, and awe network. And at that point, you start to have extraordinary experiences. Some people report things like extreme bursts of creativity. A neuroscience researcher named Judith Pennington had been stuck around writing her novel for 30 years. After that first 30 days, she began to write again, spontaneously and fluidly. Extraordinary energy flowing through her body. An artist named Vicky Valentine said, I have a crystal fountain flowing up through my body. And then suddenly she had energy to remodel a room in her house that hadn't been remodeled despite her best intentions for a long time. Moving into spontaneous movements, yoga poses, moving your body in healthy stretching. People report who are on the short path to oneness that their relationships with their husbands, their wives, their children became much, much easier. Some said, I'm wanting my husband to change for all these years. He never changed. I did the short path, and he's like a different man. It's amazing. Now, did he really change? I don't know. He's not in the short path to oneness, but you are, and you certainly changed. And of course, when one person in the marriage changes, the whole marriage changes. People have reported colored lights around their bodies or colored lights around other people, feelings of love for everyone and everything, intuitive knowing, life unfolding effortlessly, struggle just going away. And I'm going to play an excerpt from a documentary movie now. It's called Emerging Crowd. And I picked a 4 minute clip of people talking about some of the extraordinary experiences that happen when you have awakening. So let's go ahead and play that now. And again, this is what happens when people have these awakening experiences.
Walking down a dusty street in Rajasthan, I felt my consciousness crack open. It was discernible. My first thought was, oh, I've been conscious my whole life and I've never really been aware that I was conscious. Whoa, something's wrong with it. What do I do? Where do I go for that?
Of course, it was extremely powerful where it's physical sensations started at my feet and traveled through my body, and then I was taken into this blissful field of light, and that's where it started, and it was incredible and beautiful, and I understood everything. I had so much gratitude, and I just kept saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and just crying and awe. And I mean, there's just so much information that was coming inside me, and it was incredible.
Usually starts with a release of emotion, and then fears just drop away from me, tension goes away from my body, my voice becomes much deeper and more resonant, my hands become softer, almost like a child's hands, and after that seems to make way for something really special that comes through. It's the connection to my soul. Sometimes there's a sense that I'm slightly psychic. I can receive guidance, I can see what other people need sometimes, I can see what I need, I can feel within my own family the dynamics that are going on, which ones are healthy, what I can change. I feel more assertive, I feel more in my power.
I have the ability to feel what people feel, see things other people don't see, communicate with the dead, astral project, get messages that are real, know what people are thinking, know what people are feeling. That has allowed me the privilege of getting to know so many people in this life, and many people who are marginalized outside of our culture and society because they don't fit in.
I had huge mystical experiences. I would see saints and sages and beautiful beings, but I would also experience dark night of the soul, which could be scary. I had synchronicities, manifestations. Electronics always failed during an emergency. I experienced clairvoyance, clairsentience, and I consciously experienced my own death. I could see other dimensions, and I could see that time and space didn't exist. But most of all, I could see a higher consciousness in everything. I could see consciousness in a leaf to the point where I wouldn't step on it. I could see consciousness in a computer.
Seeing inside people's bodies, premonitions, telepathy, feeling deep oneness with all life, knowing people's issues without speaking to them, seeing the cosmos when I closed my eyes. My body would move into spontaneous yoga postures when I meditated, sensing how everything is connected, seeing images of all of human history running like a high-speed slideshow when I closed my eyes, seeing colours and geometric shapes, formulae, symbols behind my eyes when I meditate, flashbacks to past lives, seeing spirits, communicating with loved ones who've passed over, synchronicities, reading the energy of people even when I'm not physically with them, remote viewing, astral projection, and a deep knowing that none of this makes me special.
I was sitting there and I experienced an unconditional love in my life. This was the first time I felt that. A huge compassion towards everybody and everything in this world. And it lasts, I think, like 6-7 months. I was in this state, what Adyashanti says, a spiritual honeymoon.
Don't those kinds of experiences sound wonderful? And people report all kinds of shifts happening in their perception, in their body, when they start to have these awakening experiences. Have you ever had any of those kinds of mystical experiences? Go ahead and drop them in into the comment area. Have you ever had experiences of telepathy, inner knowing, knowing what was happening a long way away from you? The developer of the EEG in the 1920s had an experience of knowing what was happening 100 miles away one day, and that led to his trying to figure out how the brain worked and to the development of the EEG. So, which of these mystical experiences have you had? So, I'm going to have Miriam share with you in a moment about how we mentor you on the short path to oneness. Short path to oneness arranges the development of spiritual awareness in 36 milestones. And these 36 milestones come from the great non-dual teachers. And we guide you in the short path from milestone to milestone using exercises. There are these really unique exercises. Some of them, again, are drawn from ancient traditions, but they're filtered through the lens of neuroscience. And they really work. And they get you to the next milestone. So every day you spend about 15 or 20 minutes doing the exercises to move you from milestone to milestone. And very quickly they dial down the activity of that suffering self, the default mode network. They arouse the insula, the seed of compassion, forgiveness, joy, bliss, all of these positive states. And after a very short while, you feel your brain changing as you move into those states as your new normal. And you need mentoring to get you there. Because in the movie Emerging Proud that we just saw, a lot of the people had the experiences. It took them years to integrate them into their lives. And some of them were so disturbed by them, well, their families were so disturbed by them, they really were disruptive in their lives. So I'm going to have Miriam, who guides our mentors, who mentors many people in the short path, to share with you the importance of the mentoring process.
Yes, thank you, Dawson. So as Dawson just mentioned, some of these experiences that were just shared, they can be puzzling, they can be disorienting, and this is why in the Short Path to Oneness course, at least in its ultimate form, we we ideally want you to have a mentor. You meet with your mentor frequently. You stay in touch via emails. Again, you have personal one-on-one sessions. There's group meetings. There's group meetings also with me where I guide you through some healing tapping experiences many times a month. And because of experiences like those you've just seen, this is why you need a mentor. In other parts of the movie, the same people that you've just watched talk about how difficult it was to integrate their experiences into their everyday lives. And these spiritual journeys come with their traps, with what may feel like a setback, what may feel like a dark night of the soul. And in many cases, this took them many years because they didn't understand them and they didn't have a guidance system. There was no one else they could talk to. There was no one else around them in their community. Often, people in their community thought they were crazy. Other people thought they were crazy. They thought they were crazy themselves, and that's a pattern throughout history. Even people like Rumi were considered insane. Saint Francis of Assisi was ostracized by the church. Ramana Maharshi's family tried to get him to come back home and finish school. They were like, "You're 16 years old and you're living in a cave. How crazy is that?" So and even the other monks were so disturbed by Brother Lawrence's revelation that they stuck him in the kitchen, scrubbing pots and pans for the rest of the life. It's hard to fit such extraordinary experiences into ordinary life. And this is where, again, the mentorship comes in. This is where the guidance comes in. The you who you thought you are may be disappearing, and the you that you actually are is taking its place. And this is a process that can be fragile. And this is one place your mentor, your soul friends with whom you do the short path course are able to help you, because you won't be alone with those experiences. You have people you can talk to, who help you understand, who will help you integrate these experiences into everyday life, and who will motivate you to keep going. Because guess what? When you have a dark night of the soul, this is when most people say, "Peace out. This is not for me. This is too much." But everyone is just as crazy as you are. That's the good news. So if you are on a journey like this one, everyone shares this with you, and your mentor and our guidance system will help you to integrate these experiences. I will hand this back to Dawson right now. I would love, for those of you who are interested in Short Path, please go on the enroll page. You can book a personal one-on-one consultation call with me about your enrollment in Short Path and whether or not it's a good fit for you. I would love for you to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with you on a Zoom call as you make these decisions. Thank you so much, Dawson.
Miriam, thank you ever so much, both for your expertise and also your wonderful energy. I so appreciate you. Thank you. It's just so beautiful to see Miriam mentoring people and the shifts that happen in their lives. I'm going to be answering all of your questions in a moment as well. If you have questions, you can drop them to the comments box. I'm going to share with you a 2-minute clip of people who are in the short path, who have finished the short path, and just some of the experiences they have as they take the short path to oneness. And I want to mention one thing before we do that and go to questions and answers, and that's the importance of integration. So you have these experiences, and you're likely to have these experiences of elevated consciousness in the short path course, starting really early on. We've structured it that way. But how do you integrate those experiences in everyday life? Ramana Maharshi awakened at the age of 16, but he went and lived in a cave. In fact, he got so into meditation, he was in the cave, and his body was literally wasting away. And he was neglecting his body. He made no attempt to integrate. Eventually, people found him and took him away and had him eat something and start to nurse him back to health. But a lot of people who do this are not very good at integrating. So the whole last 1/3 of the short path to oneness, the last month or two of the 9-month journey of this course, you're now going to integrate this into everyday life. So by the end of the process, it's like the old saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Your life looks very similar on the outside. Internally, you are experiencing states of bliss that I can't even explain. Words fail us when we look at the brain scans of these monks and mystics, these people who've been through this process, in terms of the sheer amount of joy bubbling within you. So you'll be chopping wood and carrying water and be this incredibly blissful person as your everyday norm. And we're doing this in 9 months, not like the Bhagavad Gita, which says once in 1,000 years does a soul awaken. Our goal is awakening in only 9 months, not the 10,000 hours of the long path, just 20 minutes a day for 9 months, guided by both the ancient saints and sages and these developmental milestones, these 36 milestones in the short path, the exercises that gets you there, and also the community you will experience in this group. So what the short path includes is that systematic curriculum of those 36 milestones, a developmental journey going systematically from milestone to milestone. There are 30 exercises drawn from Paul Brunton, Ramana Maharshi, and the great traditions, but also filtered through the lens of neuroscience. We know these exercises will move you from one milestone to the other. You also get, if you are electing the ultimate form of the short path program, the Alpha Retreat right near the beginning of your journey. It's a live virtual retreat with me, and you'll get to know other people in the course who we call your soul friends. The Celtic word for soul friend is Anamchara. You'll get to know your Anamcharas, and you'll do that Alpha Retreat with them, and also with me and Miriam and other mentors. You'll also get a unique program of special meditations at the very beginning of the short path that shift you into these elevated states of consciousness in that first 30 days. Also, if you choose the ultimate version, you will have your personal mentor to guide you along each step of the journey, and a group of soul friends or anamcharas with whom you'll meet and with whom you and your mentor will meet on a regular basis for personal support. You'll also get regular virtual group video meetings. Those happen several times a month. You can ask questions, you can share your experiences. You also get personal sessions in the ultimate and the premium versions of the short path to oneness with a certified practitioner that helps you clear any traumatic blocks that are holding you back. Also, you get the final Omega retreat, again with me, live with me and Miriam and other mentors, that helps you cement and integrate your processes near the end of the short path, and specially designed integration exercises to help you integrate this into your everyday life. You can enroll, when you enroll, you have three options. The top option, the ultimate option, includes all of that one-to-one mentorship and group mentorship. Then you can do the premium, which doesn't include the one-on-one mentorship, but involves group mentorship, and also the basic version, which doesn't include the groups, but does include a monthly meeting with me of a group called the Awakeners Group. So you do get that for 9 months, even if you choose the basic form of the program. All three options are on the enroll page, and the enroll page link is there now. So I'd like to share a couple of minutes from people who've taken the course, and also please do drop your questions right now in the comments box. I'd be happy to answer any question you have about the short path to oneness. And just know that I've just so enjoyed sharing with you, because here we have in a context where the long path takes many, many years, 10,000 hours, many years. If you believe some of the Oriental traditions, it takes hundreds of lifetimes. We now, with the aid of science, can compress that into just 9 months. And we see people breaking through over and over and over again. So we'll share 2 minutes of those people sharing with you, and feel free to drop your questions into the comments. I'll be happy to answer them right after we hear from some of our wonderful short path participants.
The shift that I have felt from learning the steps of the short path course is that I just feel more confident and at ease in knowing that whatever it is that I do, there's something that is a thread that runs through all of it. I feel like there was a purpose for my whole life and for everything I've had to do, that it's made me who I am now, and that I can just be at peace and in harmony.
I'm at a really good, serene, happy place where everything just flows and everything's even keel, and things just pass through me. They, good or bad, it doesn't matter.
It's been an incredibly rewarding, enriching, and liberating experience. Really, like, the fundamental part for me is being able to reconnect and give that little boy permission, and to give that little boy the light and love that he needed and got turned off.
The result is a very joy-filled life and a different sense of being grounded.
Dawson is an amazing teacher, and the pieces of the short path are quite just full of all kinds of practices that are just profound.
It's powerful to do this course in community with people like that. They're on the short path as well, and you'll feel the love with every call. Okay, we'll go ahead and take any questions. Go ahead and post them in comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Also, if you go to the enroll page, you can make an appointment, a one-to-one phone appointment with Miriam right there on the enroll page. I'm just noticing that Linda says that up to 12 years ago, I felt as though I never belonged. I had audio voyance. People thought I was nuts. I stopped sharing. And as Miriam said, people may think you're nuts, but you have a whole bunch of other crazy people here on the course that you can share with, who become your anand-charas, your soul friends. So, and with a mentor, you have the ability to make sense of even really radical shifts in your life and big experiences. Comedians talking about not trusting your intuitions and visionary dreams, and you will learn to seek guidance in that way. Angelfish is asking, are the exercises visualizations? We try to avoid the word visualization because some people aren't visual. Some people are auditory as their primary information processing modality. Others are somatic, kinesthetic. So we look for exercises that bring in multiple sensory channels, not just visual. So some of them are visual, but many of them are going to be physical, auditory, and multi-channel. And so we've structured the course very consciously, knowing people have different learning styles. Yeah, so Carol is asking about Ecomeditation. The first 30 days, you're doing an Ecomeditation intensive. The actual tracks are short. They're only about 15, 18 minutes long. So you're just doing those Ecomeditations every day. But they're designed to have you start to experience those states of ecstasy. So ecomeditation is the base. Later on, we'll get into other types of meditation, and we'll also get into longer meditations if you want to. There's no obligation to do long, like 45-minute meditations, but we do give you that option later in the course. So for example, maybe you're doing 20 minutes every morning. Now, it is important to set aside that 20 minutes every morning. You don't get anywhere if you don't commit to that. So you must commit to that 20 minutes every morning, regardless of whether you're doing the basic or the ultimate versions of the program. But some mornings, maybe it's a weekend, maybe you have an hour. You want to just luxuriate in that meditative space. So we're going to give you longer tracks as well in the short path. Also, we have recordings. So if you can't make some of the live calls, it's fine to check the recording. We do encourage you to attend live, and we have these live calls at times when they're convenient to people in different time zones. Many people who take this course are in Europe. Many are in Australia, as well as in the US. So we have them at different times. And then, of course, your mentor will meet with you at a time convenient to you. We have mentors in different time zones as well. Okay, good question, Jesse. What if you have untreated complex PTSD? So here is an unfortunate reality. People with PTSD or even unhealed trauma who hit these elevated states are either not able to sustain them, or those states themselves are dangerous because they surface their unhealed trauma. That was what I encountered when I was 15 years old and living in a spiritual community. I was hitting elevated states, and I had a history of trauma. And I went into a deep and long, dark night of the soul. And so why do people in these states often have a dark night of the soul? Unhealed trauma. They haven't healed those wounds. So the first month of the short path is hitting those ecstatic states. The second month is trauma healing. Now, we want you to know that there's a there, that those ecstatic states are available to you. So we want you to go there and have those ecstatic experiences. You then backtrack in month 2. And if you're doing the ultimate version of the program, you'll literally have your own practitioner. You will work one-to-one with that practitioner intensively on clearing that unhealed trauma, as well as going through a series of exercises to find where it is and which area of your life it most affects. So you absolutely have to take that step. And you don't even get milestone 1. We don't even unlock it for you until you finish those 2 preparatory steps. The first one, the first month, is hitting ecstatic states. The second month is clearing trauma. Then you get milestone 1. So we do this for your own good, so that you aren't hitting ecstasy with that unhealed trauma and then triggering the dark night of the soul. Again, this course is very, very carefully structured for your well-being. A lot goes into it. Can I hear an example of the guided meditations? Yes, you can. Actually, we'll drop a link in chat. There is actually a link to the first 2 chapters, the first 2 components of the short path. It's the actual short path course, the first 2 parts of it, and it includes meditations, and it includes the actual written content of the course. And Seth, if you can just find that, I'd appreciate you dropping that into the comments as well, finding that sampler of the first 2 chapters. So we'll drop those in. Now, make sure if you're going to enroll, you look at that course before midnight tonight, because it's the end of the early enrollment period. And so you're getting a discount, $1,000 discount on the ultimate version of the Short Path to Oneness if you enroll before midnight tonight. There are also monthly payment plans available. We try to make this accessible to people. And so we have these 3 levels of participation. And at the top level, you get this $1,000 discount through midnight tonight if you enroll now in the early enrollment period. Another good question over here from Carol. What if we are in therapy with an EFT practitioner right now? It dovetails neatly into other things you're doing, but what you'll find is that that second preparatory step, when you are doing trauma clearing, dovetails with the work you're doing with your EFT, your current EFT practitioner. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Delight. Even if you have trauma, it's okay to join. And again, this is the huge problem with the short path and looking for these ecstatic states generally. There are people who are highly motivated to be in these states because they're so pleasurable. But again, think about all the scandals we've had in Christianity. Think of John of God. Think of Liberty University. Think of Shambhala Buddhism, the massive scandal that's happened, unfolded there in the last few years. People who were enlightened, amazing gurus, they haven't healed their trauma. And it comes out as the shadow side. You have to heal it. And it should not be an impediment to hitting those elevated states if you're clearing it. But if you're hitting those states without clearing it, again, either it's going to become the shadow self or you might have a dark night of the soul experience. You want to make sure you're safe and don't have that, which is why the short path is structured the way it is. Well, I think we'll wrap up our time together at this point. We'll give you that link to that presentation I did for those wonderful people at the Transformational Leadership Council. It's called Your DNA is Not Your Destiny. And again, just make sure you do enroll before midnight tonight if you're planning to do the ultimate version of the program. And again, there are other versions available as well. So let's end our time together with a moment of just being consciousness of what a privilege it is to be here in these bodies, with these minds, with these hearts, and the potential of living as that inspired being through your avatar every day, knowing I'm not the avatar, knowing I'm not this body, mind, and heart, knowing I'm more than the skin bag, knowing I am I am the consciousness, the living awareness of the universe itself, manifesting through a human body, mind, and heart. I cannot tell you the bliss that that brings, and that bliss I know is here for you. I would love to have you join me on the short path to oneness. The link is right over there. Your gift is also available through that link. The link to register is there. The 3 tiers of participation are there. I'd encourage you, if you can afford it, to purchase the version with a mentor. Because again, you're getting a highly trained, skilled professional to help you through the 9 months of the short path course. But again, if you can't afford that personal guidance, there are other options there as well. Whatever you do, don't miss this chance at bliss. I can tell you there's nothing more wonderful than waking up every morning and just feeling the love, the compassion, the joy, the ecstasy of the universe pouring through you. It's been a pleasure to share this time with you. Thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for being there. Thank you for this moment to celebrate the possibility of oneness and joy and connection. Thanks again, and I'll see you inside the short